Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Third Eye Nectar podcast with Wendy and Kanika, your nectar extractors. Like the hummingbird piercing illusions and the bee illuminating the obscure, we extract nectar from transpersonal psychology, esoteric traditions, psychedelics, dreams, mythologies, earth stewardship, indigenous wisdom, and beyond. Our aim is to pollinate these nectar drops for nourishment, guidance, stewardship, and tools for self discovery for your role on Earth and your place in the cosmos.
This is such a beautiful topic that we're having today.
Mm-hmm.
Relating relationships. There's so much that is going on in this specific arena, I think. But the primary question that I have is what is relating? And following up, why do we feel the need to relate inherently?
Mm. Mm. So deep. Um, well, I feel like relating and relationships is a process of connecting with others, connecting through shared experiences, connecting through emotions, connecting through understanding. Um, it's how we engage with people. And I feel like we learn more about ourselves when we are in relationship with others because then it's like a reflection. We have something to respond to. And it's not limited to like romantic connections. Like I think relating relationships encompasses friendships, families, connecting to the earth. And so, how do we relate ourselves to the world in this human experience? And so, why do we feel the need to relate? Um, I think yeah, there is a need, like a need to be seen, a need to be understood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's kind of I think there's a lot in that. I'm like wondering even even for you, like when we come into this question of like relationships or like what is relating, like I wonder like what comes up for you in that, and also what are some other elements that make up like like what makes a nourishing and fulfilling relationship?
Mm. Wow. Okay, so much to unpack here. I love the thing that you pointed out, the need to be seen, the need to be acknowledged, the need to be loved and understood. I think that's a basic human need that we all carry, is this need to be understood. And the way that I'm seeing relating is that let's take out the human component first. And then if we just see the word relating, I feel like we're constantly relating. We're always relating. And I think that's the human experience. We learn through relating. And we're either relating with let's take for example our breath. We breathe in, we breathe out, we relate with the air component that's fueling us. When we are walking on earth, we are relating with the energies of the earth, whether we realize it or not. This can be a very unconscious process, or we can bring consciousness into it and take it into another level. But we're
Mhm.
constantly relating with everything, even though we feel like, oh, I'm a solitary person. Sometimes we may feel like it, and I don't want to be around people. But we go into nature and we relate. We relate with the trees, we relate with the water, we relate with everything around us. And I think that is the most basic part of human experience in this 3D world. Through the physical body, we learn by relating. We learn by relating. Even a person who is sitting on a computer desk day by day doing a job as a software engineer is relating to something. The way he or she types their words on the keyboard, it is relating, right? Like, so what is the thought process that goes behind relating? And I think the quality of that thought process, I think it's very important here, because we can unconsciously do mechanical stuff every day, all day, and not even understand that we are relating. Or we can bring in a conscious thought process and awareness. And I think I'm diving into like what are the core elements that can make any kind of relationship or any kind of relating fulfilling. I think first element is awareness that you
Mhm.
are relating. You are relating even if you feel detached, even if you
Mm.
feel disconnected from everything, you are still relating in a disconnected way. So I think bringing
Mm.
awareness into that
Mhm.
process is
Mhm.
what is the first thing, is a component, is a first core component, I think. And then what I feel is the most important thing for me personally on how I relate and want to relate is listening, deep listening,
Mhm.
deep listening. And it's not just listening to the words, but I think it's listening to that which goes beyond the words, that which is very subtle.
Ooh, yeah.
The hum of the earth, the hum of the cycles of the earth, the cosmos, like everything. As much as we are relating to the things outside, I think the outside things are also trying to relate to us. So
Yes.
they're trying to communicate to us in that way. So I think active listening, deep listening, and it's a practice. It is a practice that comes. Um, and I think the third point that I would like to point out is compassion, you know, um, being compassionate, being empathetic. And that doesn't mean, um, like going and saving the world and taking in all the burdens of the world necessarily. But being compassionate and empathetic, I think, is being able to put yourself in the experience of the other and try to relate to yourself from the other person's shoes.
Yes. Yes. I love that you're bringing in like so much of I think when I hear the word relating and relationship, like I just think of human form. Like I think I like my mind just goes straight to people, families, relationships and stuff. And I so love what you're bringing forward of the relationship to earth and the subtleness and how earth and
Mm-hmm.
like plants are like also wanting to communicate. They are communicating with us. And so that deep listening that you're talking about, it feels so good. Like that felt so good to hear in my body. It's like, don't forget about the biggest relationship that we have to this land and to this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks. Thank you so much for bringing that.
Mm. Yeah, and in this process of like relating, I think we touched upon how conscious we can be of that process and partake in it consciously with a choice, with a free will, if you want to call it that, or we can mindlessly just engage with it in a mechanical way, right? Like there's so many different options that one can approach this process of relating. And I think this very process of relating is what gives meaning to our existence. So in a way, like I want to ask you what your thoughts are on this being a very conscious process versus being an unconscious process. And, how does devotion play a role in this?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm reminded of what you were like also touching on, like to me, it's like bringing that devoted peace is like really taking the time to understand, taking the time to listen,
Mhm.
taking the time to provide intention with your
Mm.
attention
Mm.
and how you choose to respond. There are many ways to engage within relating in
Mhm.
relationship, and things are always going to come up that are difficult, and we need the challenge.
Mm.
We need some sort of conflict. uh in relating, like the in couples relationships too, it's like, or even any bond really, when there's a, this term called rupture
Mm.
and repair, right? Like how relationships can deepen is through the reparative process. And so when I think of devotion, it's like, how will I continue to show up
Mm.
in this moment with you, or with, whatever it is that we're relating to, but to reassure that I'm here for it,
Mhm.
that I'm not going anywhere.
Mm.
That gives a sense of safety, a sense of security.
Mm.
So, and even like, oh, devotion, such a big, like, oh, all the dense words, like, wow, it's like really deep into my heart. It's like,
Yes.
um, yeah, that's like, I'm not going anywhere. And it's also like, yeah, even when I mess up, or even when I like do something wrong, or if I was the one to cause a certain tear or, misunderstanding, my point of devotion is like, I want to be able to understand the other part, the other half, the other party, of like their experience, and really choose to lead with love and work on it, work through it. And so, oh, that for me is like the path of devotion to relationship. It's like, how do we provide that security, that safety, to take
Mm.
care of each other's hearts?
Mm. Whoa. You know, wow. Yes. So this is I think we're stepping into holy ground right now when we talk about devotion and relating and our presence here on earth, and how we are trying to build community, starting with the community within ourselves, extending it to our loved ones, our family, and then in a bigger community, and then embracing, like, the whole of earth. I think devotion plays a big, big role. And what I'm clinging on to right here, right now, from what you said, is cracking and repairing that, right? Like it is that process of being cracked open. And then how do you choose to heal those wounds? How do you choose to seal them? It kind of reminds me of this art of kintsugi from the Japanese pottery, where, the
Oh,
broken
yeah.
shards of Japanese bowls are actually sealed with gold. They're repaired with gold to just
Mm.
enhance the beauty of that cracked vessel. It brings me back to that. And the gold that I'm seeing here is from what you said. Yes, there's something that happened between two things that are relating to each other, but I'm here for it. I'm here no matter what. I'm here to work through it. You know, I'm here to hold you. I'm here to walk with you so that we can enhance our relationship. it really, really reminds me of the trust and the faith that we can cultivate in the infinite resourcefulness of the universe that is holding us.
Mm,
Because as we walk this earth, we talked about the breath being a relating component at the
mhm,
beginning.
mhm,
No matter what we do, no matter how much dark thoughts we think, no matter how high frequencies we try to ascend, the earth is constantly supplying us with breath to keep going, with air and oxygen to keep going.
mm, mhm.
It
Yeah.
is that kind of unconditional holding of your
Yes.
body, right? Of your
Yeah.
mind, of your spirit, of your soul, saying that I am providing you no matter what. Come as you are, walk as you are, and I'm providing you with the resources so you
Mm,
can breathe and live well, so that you can spread that quality of life to other people. And that importantly and particularly includes relationships.
oof.
So I think there is that unconditional flavor, that perfume to devotion that, I think it's the core of what humanity is trying to touch. That that core quality of human beings, that capacity we all hold inside ourselves to be able to hold the other with that unconditional love, with that unconditional resourcefulness, with that mindset of abundance that there is no lack for anybody.
Mm,
Everybody is well taken.
oh my gosh. I'm getting like so emotional over here because, yeah, you're just speaking like it is this unconditional love that I feel from our Mother Earth and the resources, the resources that's provided for us, the seeds,
Mhm,
the soil, the regeneration of how Earth keeps going. And it also, like, our Earth is also hurting from the extraction, from the colonization, from the ruptures,
mhm.
from disconnection. And so, like, I can see that on like a zoomed out perspective of like relating, right? Oh, my hands feel a little sweaty because I'm just like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot. Um, but within relationships too, like, I guess to kind of zoom it back in of relating, it's like, how do we navigate boundaries without creating disconnection?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Boundaries. You know, we talked about devotion, we talked about unconditional abundance, unconditional resourcefulness. And I think, like any concept, like any kind of teaching, like any kind of mystery, anything could be manipulated and taken out of context and used in a way that is not conducive for the overall health of any kind of community, right? And so I feel like what we're talking about with respect to devotion and unconditional love, and the earth is holding us no matter what, and she's always providing no matter what, can be taken into a very fanatical context of like, she's always providing us no matter what, and she'll always
Mhm.
come back no matter what. And so what I'm going to do is that it is all here for my taking. So I'm going to just go out and pillage, and I'm going to rape the earth, and I'm going to take what I need, all in the name of devotion. It can be done, right? Like, and I think we're seeing that a lot. So I think people confuse fanaticism with devotion. So if you bring that
Mhm.
into relationships, the same can be applied in terms of relationships. And the word that we use, I think, for this kind of a frequency is taking the other for granted,
Yeah.
taking their presence for granted, taking their energies for granted, taking what they're offering for granted. And I think that constantly we're seeing in this world where like divorce rates are increasing, separation rates are increasing, and all kinds of different things that
Mhm.
drive people apart. It's just increasing, mm, like in a very magnified way. It's because I think we fail to really understand the depth of what boundaries mean,
Mhm.
and what boundaries we have as a human being mean. And the way that I'm seeing it, I'd love to hear your input, Wendy, but the way that I'm seeing it is, yes, we are boundless spirits, eternal spirits, living forever until like the creator dies, or whatever concept one may have of, a soul living for however long it wants to live. But we are physical beings too. In this 3D density, we have a limitation because number one, we're bound by a physical body. Number two, we have an age limit. And number three, we relate and we process information through our emotions. And our emotions can only flow in our body with the like in proportion to the amount of space we have to experience them all. So we're not always capable of holding ourselves in the full spectrum of emotions all the time
Yeah.
and seeing everything with neutrality, right? Like that's part of the human experience. That's part of the turbulence we face as being a human. So I think understanding that, yes, primarily I am a physical body, I have limitations, I age,
Mhm.
I have cycles, and I am playing with the laws that bound me to this physical plane, that bound me to this 3D earth. So understanding those laws of, I need time to rest, I need time to play, I need time to do my service. So there's like limitations for everything that'll help us function in the most efficient way in this world, right? And now when we can have that understanding for ourselves, and when we can hold ourselves in that self-respect and self-honor, we will be automatically able to hold that for the other person and understand that, yeah, that person is also human. They also have their limits,
Yes.
you
Mhm.
know? And and here is when we connect in that humanity, bringing in the compassion, bringing in the empathy, bringing in that aspects of ourselves that are deeply, deeply human, which
Mhm.
is putting ourselves in the other shoes and understanding. And then obviously the communication, how lovingly we can communicate, non-violent communication.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, really, really well said. Beautiful. Um, and what I
How do
hear,
you, yeah, what do
yeah,
you feel?
yeah. I mean, like coming back to this place of boundary is like boundary can be looked at as like an act of love, right? How,
Mm,
right? It's
mm,
like how I choose to hold myself. It's like you teach people how to treat you.
mm. Yes.
And it is an act of love of self and really understanding. And, I think we get cued by our responses to our body and our emotions
Mm,
when something feels like a threat, when something feels overwhelming. And that is our cue to really speak and own our experience of being with that emotion,
mm,
and then it is our responsibility to express how it makes us feel in order to communicate that with someone else.
Mm. Mm.
And I think that's when we start to understand, like, what is the need? Like, what didn't feel right? Like, what boundary was crossed? And most of the time, it's like we don't know what that is until it happens. And it can be very easy to look past it because it's hard and vulnerable to express that there's something that's happening in our experience that's challenging, that you have a need. And to strengthen relationships, I feel like the other person or the other half or the party just like needs to hear that. We're not mind readers. It would be so much easier.
Yeah, telepathic beings.
Right? Um, but then it's yeah, it's necessary. So it's like I see it as like an act of love, and it takes a lot of courage to share these things. And I think even how Earth communicates, right? Like I think she's also, from like different changes within our globe and like fires and just floods. I think
Earthquakes.
earthquakes,
Yeah.
I think these are also some form of expression of boundaries that have been
Mm.
crossed.
Mm. Mm.
And so, what is our responsibility here to, this unconditional love that is being met from by Mother Earth to us, the reciprocity of how are we as humans going to show up in the path of devotion back to our Mother Earth? So we can also hold ourselves accountable. What are the things in our power and control that we can help inform ways of support? So, I mean, that it comes back to those repairs.
Mm.
And when there are those tears and those ruptures within relating, the repair can be so vital that it can strengthen the bond.
Yeah. I think the mode of repair is also important here. Is, are we completely throwing away that which is broken, which is also a choice, or are we just super gluing it together because we want it to be repaired as quick as possible because we're in a rush to do something else? That's also another choice. Or are we going to take an artist's way and sit and bring all the pieces together, collect the gold, and use that gold to repair
Mm,
the pottery into a beautiful artwork? That is also a choice.
yeah, it is. Right? I love that, the artist's way of like choosing how we'll go about it. Yeah.
Hmm. I think this thing of relating is also the path of an artist.
Oh, yes.
And many of the things that you talked about with respect to the earth, and also with how we treat each other. I mean, with all the divisions that are happening around the globe and the many different kinds of information that is going around the globe that is causing rift and repair. I think many of it is, I personally feel like it is here to bring us together in our humanity. It is here to
Mm-hmm.
assist us to take the artist's way, to come up with creative solutions, to come up with solutions that are in the best interest for each and every single person. It's like no one's left behind, kind of a thing, you know? Although that might be a very far-fetched dream that might not happen for many generations, but still I'm allowed to dream, right? And the components that I'm seeing here that can be very much a part of what we can do right now to keep all of us as moving forward as humanity is understanding what stewardship really means. I don't think, I
Mm,
personally don't feel related to the term ownership, but I feel very comfortable with the term stewardship.
mm-hmm,
I think there's a very clear distinction between those both. And also knowing the limits of our human body, but also knowing that we process everything through emotions. I think we are also seeing a need for us to keep honing in our emotional intelligence
yeah.
and also understanding, which is again going back to the interconnectedness that our elders have been talking about. Like when you really, really understand the interconnectedness of everything and that we are part of the cycle, nothing is separate. When you become part of that cycle and start listening to the subtleties, start listening to the things that are unsaid, you could call it reading between the lines. Any relationship, I think, can benefit from it, especially when we're looking at couples. I think the ownership versus the stewardship can be very useful because,
Mm,
I come from a culture where it was traditionally told that the man owns the wife,
mm,
so I think there's some nuances there as well.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you for speaking to that because that's something that I was also feeling in this conversation is like this illusion or this you know that we are separate, right? The interconnectedness that you're speaking to, that we're separate from earth, that we are separate from each other because we see like in the physical form we like are in our own bodies.
Yes.
but but even like in the relationship it's like if I'm hurting somebody else like I can see that as like I'm hurting a part of myself.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
And so all of the things, of the boundaries and like the devotion, it's really this like unification
Hmm.
of that connectedness that you've named.
Mm. I'm interested in something that you brought up, with the earthquakes, the floodings, the fires, and all of these other things that we call natural disasters. Um, is also a possibility that it's a violation of our Mother Earth's boundaries, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more on that, and then what your thoughts are. We talked about reciprocity, we talked about stewardship. So I want to know what your thoughts are on being in a relationship with Earth that is respectful of both our boundaries and the Earth's boundaries.
Yeah.
What could a right relationship look like?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
how specifically does that affect the current and the future generations?
Yeah. That's a really big question. I love it. And I think I'm I'm thinking about some points that you've named too. It's like finding new creative ways in connection. You know, right? Things aren't going well. It's not looking good. Um, and I feel that there is still time in seeing this, and I think these conversations are important to have, to witness. It's like how do we come together? Um, and this, um, I like I feel like it's a coming back to like indigenous wisdom.
Mm, mm,
I think a lot of it is kind of steering us back to listening to the earth and her needs. And it's
mm,
like I right now I think about, the fires that happened in LA um a couple like I think it was like a month ago. It's been a little bit of time, but like there are indigenous practices that um are taking place where they're like safe burns. It's like they know
mm.
how to actually make offerings and listen to the land in a way where it's like they have these burns so that it can avoid the fires from being wild or taken off to the extent of what happened in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so again, I think there needs to be conversations and this listening of the people that have been stewarding the land in many different places because we are at in crisis. We in we're definitely in crisis. So, um, yeah. I mean, I think it's still like having more conversations, listening to people and, not putting the blame, but like how do we come back together? How do we come
Mm,
back together in community? How do we come back?
yes.
Again, it's all the togetherness that I feel is going to be supportive in these times and um, looking at these things.
Yeah. I love what you said about how do we come back together. I think that's such a great question to contemplate on, for whoever is listening. Yes, there's so much that's happening around the world. That information is constantly being put in our system, and we're having to kind of wade through all of it and still be able to stand in our alignment and discern what is real, what is not real. Amongst all this division, I think Wendy posed a very beautiful question for contemplation. How do we come back together? And how
Mm.
can we contribute, each and every single one of us? How can we contribute in our own way, in little ways, every day? How do we come back together? For me, how do we come back together? I think it begins with listening, deep, empathic listening to the subtleties of everything that is around me and to the people that I come in contact with on a daily basis.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's so beautiful. I also think for me, it does kind of start off same with listening. And it's like listening to the earth, listening to, you know, the elders, um, listening to the wisdom that's been like passed down, and also know that we also evolve. And so back
Yes.
to those creative solutions of like, okay, now we're in a new time,
Yes.
but how can we still kind of merge indigenous wisdom and science
Yes.
for, I like, just holding the prayer of future generations
Mm-hmm.
so we can
Yeah.
keep this going, baby.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought this balancing of Indigenous wisdom and science. And just by a brief contemplation, I'm just realizing this could possibly actually be cycles, where we stray from Indigenous wisdom only to be brought back to the Indigenous wisdom. And the Indigenous wisdom, I think more than it being restricted to communities that are in certain places, the Indigenous wisdom is the earth's wisdom that is freely transmitted by the earth to all the people that are walking on this earth. So all of you who are listening and everybody in the world have access to this. And we talked about the artist's way. And I want to bring us to that. The artist's way. The artist always finds beautiful, creative solutions and is very, very adept, I think, the artist in creating beauty out of chaos, creating
Mm.
order out of chaos. So I
Mm-hmm.
think we're combining multiple different ways here to find creative solutions. Being an artist, at the same time being a philosopher, and the philosopher observes to make, perceptions. And you talked about the scientific way, based on those perceptions, you kind of logically put together solutions that can bring all of us together. And all of that, I think, should be brought together fully and integrated in um, wisdom, in the mystic's way, in the way of the mystic, the way of the elders, the way of the animists, the way of the shamans.
Mm. I think so. Beautiful. Beautifully put. Thank you so much for this conversation. There's so much here that I feel like my mind like just percolating my heart, and also just feeling a lot of hope.
Yeah, I definitely do that. I absolutely feel that too. Amidst everything, I do feel hope. I do feel the spark. I feel the joy. I feel strength. And because I feel that within myself, I think I feel that it's present in all of humanity.
Mm. Yes, me too.
Yeah.
So I think we can all just hold that prayer together. So, you know, may we still find that hope. May we still find the inner workings of allowing ourselves to create art, to make love, to make and connect with our joy. I think at this time, it's like it's so important to stay connected with these things, and may may it continue to be birthed from you, and invite that in with other people in your life and encourage it in others. So I leave it here with you. Thank you, sister, for this topic.
Thank you. That's such a beautiful prayer. That is really such a beautiful prayer. Uh, all right. So, that's all we have for today on this topic, although Wendy and I can keep going on and on.
Yes.
Well, wishing all of you beautiful hummingbirds a wonderful rest of the day or
Qualities.
night or whatever time of the day or night that you find yourselves in. Uh, keep finding your way, keep finding your path, keep living and breathing in beauty and joy. And we will see you in the next Nectar Drop.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, nectarines. We enjoyed this nectar extraction, and if you found this helpful and valuable, please subscribe and drop us a comment. Be the first to listen when new episodes are released. If you know of anyone who would enjoy vibing out with us, please share this nectar with them. We love you and catch you in the next Nectar Drop.